So today I'm talking about the Sony A7C and why it's the perfect camera for me and maybe for you. So I'm not new when it comes to the Sony landscape. I've owned many of their cameras before, and now I'm back to the Sony A7C, and I'm really happy to tell you guys all about it. So the first camera that I ever owned was the Sony A5000. Not the 5100, the 5000. And that was my first ever camera. Then I went to the Canon T6i, then the Sony A7 III right when it came out, and then the EOS R, and then back to Sony. And I'm loving it so far. So one of my first reasons why I love this camera over other cameras is just the sheer size. Now, I'm not a pro vlogger yet. Just holding this camera out and me trying to hold it steady is pretty easier with this camera rather than others. Whenever Sony released the A6400, everybody loved that camera. I feel like this camera is 10 times better and it's full frame. It is more expensive, I think around $800 more, but I think it's worth the money. I feel like such a small body is able to pack such a big punch as far as holding full frame sensor and able to take great raw images with a 24.2 megapixel camera. You just can't beat it. Me just walking around talking to the camera at my local park, people don't think I'm like a new lunatic for talking to a camera, and it's not big enough to cause too much of attention. Back when I owned the Sony A7 III, I absolutely loved that camera, but there were just one or two features that I wished it had. That's where this camera comes in. Now, the Sony A7C is significantly smaller, but it has the same sensor, the same system, and even better autofocus than the Sony A7 III, which is just a lot of pluses in my book. At the start of my career, I was taking all photos and just being a main photographer. But as I'm getting more along in my career, I'm starting to tend to lean more towards video. And I feel like this camera is the perfect hybrid camera as far as having great video and great photos. If you only do photography, it makes sense for you to get maybe a different camera. If you're only video, it makes sense for you to get a camera like the R5 or the A7S III. But since I'm hybrid and I do both, I chose this. And just to think the sheer amount of options I get in this camera compared to other ones, I still get S-Log2, I still get S-Log3, I still get 1080 120. That's slow motion enough for me. And I still get that raw 24 megapixel camera to take as many photos as I like. By no means am I telling you which camera to get or to even get this camera. I'm just saying, if you want to shoot great photos, great videos, you can't go wrong with the Sony A7C. Another great feature just about Sony cameras in general is that you're able to kind of punch in to this APS-C mode and even use a clear image zoom to even punch in even more. So I could turn this 20mm lens into an equivalent of a 45mm lens just by pushing two buttons. Now, of course, there might be some quality loss, at least on the APS-C crop, but just not spending the extra $500 to $1,000 on another lens is worth it in my opinion, considering I just use this for my personal use. Some of the limitations could be you don't have any of those custom buttons that some of the bigger Sony mirrorless cameras have. Whenever it comes to these limitations, I just think that you have to factor those in before you go to buy a camera on how it'll fit into your workflow. Another limitation could be that the highest bit rate it shoots for video is 4K 8-bit. And I know a lot of people get spoiled by Blackmagic Pocket Cinema cameras and the Sony A7S III now. Shooting all 10-bit is really, really nice. So coming back to this 8-bit kind of quality could be a downer, I guess. Another con could be that it has the old menu system of the old Sony mirrorless bodies and not the one of the A7S III. But like I said, Cons are cons. You'll get them with everything you come across. So finding out whether or not those are enough for you, it's up to you. Another con could be how small the grip is. Apparently people have been telling me that this grip is smaller than the A6400 bodies, which I don't have the biggest hands in the world, but that doesn't matter to me. So, and I don't even think I touched on this at all while I was walking around the park, is that you can compare this camera so much to the A7 III, but this one has like a flip screen, so you can see yourself while vlogging. Like I can see myself, and that's just an amazing plus, because that's one of the hugest things that the A7 III was lacking, this screen, and now we got it. While I was shooting B-roll, I just remembered another thing, is that a lot of people were saying that they put like a whole new image stabilization system into the A7C just so that they would be able to fit this big sensor in such a small package. And I will say that's another one of the cons, is that the image stabilization is not the best in this camera, but it still is something rather than nothing. And I don't know if you could be able to tell, but I wasn't the most stable walking around talking to the camera, but that comes with practice, and that's what I'm trying to do better at in 2021. All in all, to end this video off, I just absolutely love this camera, the Sony A7C. It takes great photos, great videos, and I can't ask for more out of a camera. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.